Okay, well, welcome to theories. Theories is usually one of the courses that students take in the first or second semester. Every now and then, you can take it later, but we'd like it to be, one of your earlier courses, at least pre-practicum, because it's one of the foundational courses. And I love theories. The So I think we'll begin by letting me tell you a little bit about myself. If you've had me for class, maybe you've heard this before, but I just introduced myself. My name's Grafton Eliason. You can call me Grafton. We're in grad school, everybody's adults. There used to be this old black and white movie with an actor named Sidney Poitier in it, and it's called To Sir with Love, and I watched it when I was a kid. And the he was a kind of a school teacher for kids who um, were difficult or were having problems. And one of the things he decided to do was to kind of establish a respectful relationship, which means, if they were going to call him Mr. So and so, he was going to call them Mr., Ms., whatever they preferred, and their last name. And so I it, I always wondered, why uh, graduate school was like it is sometimes. And so if I call you by your first name, you can call me by my first name. If you're not comfortable with that, call me Dr. Eliason, but you can call me Grafton. Um, the I so I mean, I think, like, at this stage, if people want you to use a title, it's like about their ego. So they kind of need to get over that. Um, all right. Unless they want to give you a title as well. So, all right. All that about a name. Boy, it's going to be a long night. So, uh, let's see. Um, I never thought that I would be a therapist or a counselor. Um, and it was a long and winding road to get to this point in my life, but I'm glad I'm here. Uh, so I guess I had I did not like school very much, K through 12. Hated school. Uh, Grew up in a very rural area, Chambersburg, PA, Central PA. Lots of farms, lots of Amish and Mennonite communities around there. And so I like the area, I like the rural area, but didn't like school. I don't know if they do this now or not, but back then you could have a parent write a note, and you could only go to school half a week, and you can work like in a job the other half of the week. And so that's what I did. I got a job with North American Moving, and you know did that for a couple years at the end of my high school. And one of the things I did like was that because it was such a rural area at the time, it's like 1982, graduated like 84. They got a grant from Apple. They had one of the first Apple labs that was donated to a school. And so I really did like learning about the first computers, the first personal computers, Apple IIe's, and learned a little bit about programming and software. And so then after school, after I graduated, got a job at one of the first computer stores, and they continued to teach me things like, you know, fixing computers, building computers, all kinds of stuff. Um, and even though I never wanted to go into computers, it always helped me with like getting a graduate assistantship or having a job while I was in school and things like that. Um, So I was working and I was living at home, and my parents were like, well, if you're going to live at home, we're glad you got a job, but we want you to try to go to college. We had um, a college, Shippensburg University, within a couple miles of my parents' home. And it was, it's a state school just like uh, Edinburgh, Clarion, California, all the state schools. They were all built around the same time, and they were all built in rural areas. The reason the state colleges, at that time, colleges, they were called teacher colleges, were built in very rural areas was because um, they wanted teachers uh, for those rural areas. And they figure they put a college or a university in that area, they'll draw people who live from those areas. And then after they graduate and become teachers, they'll stay. And so it was a really basic reason why all of our state colleges or universities are built where they're built. Um, and because they all started out as teacher colleges. And and so and it was affordable, compared to other universities. So um, you know, I had had a negative experience in school. I wasn't looking forward to it. And I said, well, as long as I can take whatever I want to take. So I liked reading. I took English Lit and minored in psych. And it was a really positive experience. The professors at that school um, were respectful, and they gave any student, not just me, the extra attention that they needed. I think that's one of the big advantages of our program. I think we really do take an interest in individual students. And, so I had a really positive experience with those professors. Um, and I enjoyed the classes. It was just totally different from my previous school experience. And in the back of my mind, I thought, wow, these people have like the greatest job in the world. But I never expected to be doing it myself. And so didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated college. And I liked writing, so I applied to all of the different writing programs across the country, and like a dozen of them. And my professor, one of the professors who really knew me that I was like kind of like a searcher, like a seeker, uh, you know, not really sure where my life was going, but I had interests in everything. And so I was reading about different cultures and different religions. And he said, well, why don't you just apply to one religious school, School of Religion? And just to humor him, I did. And I applied to one I knew I wouldn't get accepted to. Uh, Turns out all of the writing programs I got rejected at, all dozen of them, and I got accepted to the one School of Religion that I had applied to, happened to be Princeton, so it was pretty good. Uh, and I pictured this as just like fate. Who knows why these things happen? And even studying religions, I always I always liked, taking like, well, in undergrad it was like a minor in psych, and the master's degree in religion it was like minor in pastoral counseling and things like that. And so I it was always in the background, and spent a lot of time in India and other countries studying this. And so I had a sense of adventure when I was younger. And now you know I get stressed out flying to Disney. So different age. Uh, but yeah, so after I graduated, I got a job in an even more rural area. There were no therapists, there were no counselors. The Harrisburg hospitals were 45 minutes away. And in order to get this job, which was like working with working with kids and churches and things like that. But in order to take the job, I had to agree to drive the ambulance because the last person who had the job drove the ambulance in the town. And so that was definitely an interesting time. So many people, because there was a lack of resources in these rural areas, so many people would come to me with different emotional issues. And I wanted to help them, but I just didn't feel qualified to help them. And so I went back to Shippensburg and I went in the exact same program that you're in now. Uh, in fact, it was a K-CREP accredited program, and some of the classes have changed, but the basics are the same. And so uh, I really liked counseling, and I ended up becoming a school counselor, uh, K through 12, but I worked in an elementary school. And I thought to myself, even though I hated school, I thought, I bet a lot of kids hate school, and maybe if they had a caring school counselor, I could make their lives a little easier. And I loved it. I loved being an elementary school counselor. And I was at a rural school in Dillsburg, PA. Their claim to fame is dropping a giant pickle on New Year's Eve, Dillsburg. And then when I came back to uh, Duquesne to get my doctorate, I worked at Martin Luther King Elementary School on the north side. And there used to be an elementary school called East Hills Elementary School outside of Pittsburgh. And it was the last school without walls. So you can imagine the noise and the chaos. Uh, so they only had like those folding dividers. And if you uh, folded them all, the whole school had no walls. It was like this 1960s concept. But I really, I always liked doing it. Um, Ended up, working in other areas as well. Like had worked in a couple agencies, had a private practice. Ended up working with a lot of populations that I hadn't intended to work with. Like um, one time, I was one of the only male therapists in a small town. Um, so they sent me all the kids that needed a male therapist for whatever reason. Maybe that's what they preferred, maybe whatever. I don't really differentiate, but other people do. Um, but ended up becoming really informed on trauma and abuse and things like that. And yeah, just had a really well-rounded experience, um, seeing a lot of different diagnoses. Uh, Taught at different places like the Citadel and started the program as a coordinator of the first program at Chatham. And then then they had a job at what used to be Cal U. And I applied. I've been here 20 years. It's my dream job. It's that dream I had in the back of my mind when I was a student at Shippensburg. And I love it, love working with students. And you know, I have four kids. Three of them are teenagers. One of them's 6 years old, and that like pushed back my retirement like 10 years. So I'll be around a little while longer. And let's see. Um, I do. I teach other courses. This is theories. I teach research. I teach DSM. I teach skills, practicum, clinical field. I teach a special course every other year on grief and loss. So if you're interested in grief and loss, I think it's going to be offered this summer. But I try to offer it every other year so that anybody who's in the program for 2 years can take it if they want to. Um, let's see. Uh, if anybody's interested in pursuing a doctorate, uh, me and Dr. Lepore have worked with a lot of students and helped them get into doctoral programs. Sometimes there's a lot of competition because, there's all kinds of, like, I think, so this program at the various schools before we were integrated, these programs were ranked number one in the state. And I'm not real familiar with the other ones, but Cal U was like ranked top 10 in the nation on the KCREP site. Uh, and I've taught in St. Vincent's and Duquesne's and Citadels and Chatham's. And I would easily say that this program and the professors are, one of the top programs in the country. And we used to have people coming internationally, um, and we will again. But even though I know that, other people don't know that. And So we have to find ways to kind of set students apart if they're interested in applying to a doctoral program. That means presenting at conferences or publishing something like that to kind of set them apart rather than just write a thesis. So, yeah, you just have to kind of make it known early if you are interested in doing something like that so that we can help you along that process. Um, all right. Uh, yeah, that's a little bit about me. Um, right now, I am I'm working at St. Clair Hospital, which is in Mount Lebanon, South Hills of Pittsburgh, in their psychiatric unit with severe psychosis. Um, so I love working there because it's a nice mix. I like practicing and then teaching. I don't think you should do just one. And working in a place like that, um, there's so many individuals that a diagnosis might be difficult to find. And to me, that's like the ultimate puzzle. It's like a human puzzle. And trying to figure out not only what the cause of the problem is, but how to resolve it and help them as well. Um, all right. So let me talk a little bit about um, my philosophy of teaching. And I think that's how we're going to begin the syllabus section. So let me pause